Welcome, everybody, to the Boss Body Podcast. This is Sarah Haas, and I am so glad you're here with me today. I have a special guest with me today, and I am so excited for you to hear what she is going to talk to us about. Her name is Julia Thie, and Julia is a clinical hypnotherapist, and she is medical support certified. Welcome, Julia. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
So, you're a clinical hypnotherapist. And for those of us who don't know what that is and or have maybe heard the word hypnotherapy and don't exactly know what that is, can you explain a little bit about it?
Oh, yes. And I think it's a great question because most of the time, what I get the feedback about is what we all think hypnotherapy might be based on Las Vegas stage shows or television and the watch swinging and that sort of thing. And it makes it look like there's some sort of loss of control or something
Right,
like
you're like quacking like a duck every time you hear a certain word or and then you come out of this trance and you have no idea what just happened.
wondering why the audience is looking at you funny. And
So
no,
that's not what this is.
not at all. And I think that does it a big disservice because it is about inner healing. It's forming a communication between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And it actually, instead of thinking of it as losing control, you're gaining control because you start to see the unraveling of behaviors that you're not sure why you even do.
Right, because we don't
Yeah.
know what's in our subconscious, and we don't realize how much that is driving our actions.
Yes. All the time. We call the subconscious mind the great doer. And we think it's our frontal brain that's running the show and making decisions, and it can make decisions all day long, but you will only act on what your subconscious believes and wants to do.
So, how does that work? Explain like, what would people come to you for? And then how would you help them navigate through this?
Well, the beauty of personal one on one clinical hypnotherapy is that it can be so personalized because you can have a symptom like, I can't tame my food cravings, or um, I don't sleep, or I emotionally eat, like emotional triggers, or I emotionally lash out at my loved ones, something like that. Harmonizing a relationship. So let's say a person comes and they say, um, emotional eating. That's a big one, I know
Oh,
from
yeah.
my many, many years of practice. Emotional eating can be so many different reasons for each person. And the beauty of it is that we call it root and branch. Like the branches are the manifestation of the symptoms, but the root cause, for one person, it could be something way back in their childhood. For another person, it could be a really bad boss, something that we ended up catching and our subconscious started to believe, and it's not true.
And I talk about that all the time with my clients and when I teach classes is that the activity that you're engaging in that you keep not wanting to do it and you keep doing it is coming from something deeper. People think, "Oh, you can give me a food list, you can give me an exercise plan, and that's what I need." But people do it over and over and over again, and it keeps swinging that pendulum. They're doing it, then they're not doing it. And, they come to me like, "What is happening? Like, why can't I stick to this? Why don't I have willpower? Why can't I stay motivated?" And they blame themselves. And I always say, there is more going on under the surface, and the emotional eating is the symptom. And so we have to get under there and figure out what the cause is. And that's one of the things that I work with my clients on all the time. And so, I mean, that's what you're doing with more than just eating, but with lots of different issues, like you were saying, anger management and things like that.
Right. And even hormone fluctuations. We know how much in midlife and questioning what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? I mean, all those sorts of things. And the beauty of it is, and this is true with your work and my work, however we go in and let's say, because we are our own clients, right? Like I work on myself all the time.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
I just open myself to the willingness to look, like I'm willing to look, and I really care to change, I have to care about changing. That's really all the equipment you need, right? And once you're willing and like, okay, I'm gonna maybe eat some humble pie here, and or something like that, like, oh, I can't believe I've been acting this way. But then when you go into the subconscious and you discover where the programming comes from, sometimes you find out, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't even need to know. It could even be pre-verbal. So if you go in and you work in the field of the creative intelligence, right? Keyword being creating, and you're creating your life from this creative intelligence. And when you are in the place of being able to like dance in there and say, oh, look. And then you objectify some of these beliefs, put them out in front of you, and you see the form they take. It's beautiful creative work to watch something like, oh, one of mine, I did a visualization in hypnotic trance, which I'll talk about what that is. And I'm there and I realized my overwhelm, right? That's a thing for a lot of people, overwhelm. I visualized it as this coat made of rocks, right? And I could just imagine like the heaviness of that. And I put this coat of rocks out in front of me and I asked it to talk to me. And what I discovered was that each one of those rocks had a truth for me. And it was actually places I was storing my own power.
That's so
And
powerful, just that imagery of the rocks, because that's kinda like, as you go through life, you take on all these things that come from other people, the things they project onto you, and it could be, like you said, it could be from when you're very young, it could be from teachers, it could be from bosses, it could be from romantic relationships or whatever. And we gather these rocks and we put them on and we wear that and it weighs us down. And so it sounds like what you're doing is helping to peel that off so that we have the freedom to tap into who we really are authentically and our own intuition and our own knowing so that we're no longer driven by all those false beliefs that we've collected over the years. Suddenly, we're acting in our own power.
exactly. And what's really, I call it core healing, because at the core is your connection to your higher self. And wash the windshield of your subconscious because you can't see through all that belief system. If it's not in alignment with that sort of inner divinity, you can't see it, and therefore you can't connect to it, because really that's where willpower comes from, and those belief systems. And so when, let's say it this way, the less baggage or rocks that we carry, the more clearly we have access to this innate willpower. Like you ever have it where you're thinking, oh, this is going to be hard, and then it just seems like, oh, everything just worked out so beautifully. And you wonder, like, where did that come from?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
the body's natural state is health, and animals don't take on all these things that we do, and if you watch how they behave in their natural habitat, they eat when they're hungry, they don't eat when they're not, they eat what their body needs, they don't eat what their body doesn't need. If they're sick, they go off and rest until they heal, and, we if we can clear off all that outer layer, that's what your body wants to do. Your body wants to eat what heals and nourishes it and keeps it healthy. Your body wants to move, but we have so many things blocking that, and so we think it has to be hard. We think we have to have, like, this super willpower and, we don't understand why we don't have it, and this is such a beautiful way of looking at it. So tell me what hypnotherapy would look like if someone came in for a session. How does that work?
Well, usually they're done in sets of three. So usually you would do 3 sessions because it takes some time to and digesting between to really do that. Sessions are about an hour and a half. They can be online, which is so interesting. I didn't know that going into school. I thought, but after the pandemic and all that, we're so much more attuned to using, most people have the ability to do that. So I do have an office in Johnson City, Tennessee, but I also do sessions just the same online. And what happens, we go through an interview process and decide the best thing to do is to be as specific as possible. The more sword point that we can be on an issue, the more results you're going to see, and we're able to really hone down on it. So, like, choose one little symptom and choose that. And then what happens after the work happens, and let's say we do 3 sessions, is it cascades into the rest of your life. So the not the deep feeling of unworthiness that plagues a lot of us, especially women, or some sort of lack of confidence, fear of being told that you're wrong or something like that. Whatever those things are that become uncovered, then once those start to change in the programming, they stay there for good until something is able to reprogram you. And there are very specific things that can program that make you open to being programmed. Some of them can be peer pressure or high emotion, chronic arguments with a spouse who has unkind words. That is subconscious programming.
Mhm.
And so if you reverse the programming and you like, it really sinks in with 3 sessions, working with visualization and words, right? Programming words, they're an outpicturing of subconscious, but subconscious speaks in images and emotions. So getting in
So
touch with images and emotions. Yeah.
as you mentioned earlier, we imagine hypnosis as like you're put into this trance and you have no, you afterwards, you don't know what it is. So I think some people might be like scared to
Right.
to try it. So can you just explain the process? Like how do you get people into that state where they can tap into their inner knowing?
Yes, yes. Because I went off into the interview and what we can do with the more specific you can be, the better. But of course, even if it's just general, there is self-healing to be had there. So when a person comes in and I explain, because I do think the rational mind is not the enemy here. We have this, what we call the critical factor, that that decides if something is true or not. And in hypnosis, we just shift the brain waves from our, like, I'm in beta right now. I'm thinking, I'm talking, I'm active, and I want to switch to alpha. And alpha is just a state of physical relaxation, mental clarity, and emotional calmness.
So it's
That,
kind of
my
like
dear, is hypnosis.
meditation, kind of like when you get in a meditative state. So it's
Yeah.
nothing where you don't have control. It's nothing where you could program some weird, tick or whatever. It's nothing like that. It's really just calming your system, calming your body so that your mind can, those things that are in there can start surfacing.
Exactly, because that little critical factor voice that is not out to get you, it's not the inner critic, not to be confused with the inner critic. But the critical factor is the thing that will say if somebody says, "Oh, you look so beautiful today." And the critical factor looks inside the subconscious and says, "Is that true? Do we have a belief to match that?" No, we don't. So no, I don't believe you.
Mhm.
And so just the light relaxation, just even going to alpha, research has shown that that is enough to open up the subconscious for voluntary programming. You would never do anything against your moral code. And also, we do all of our pre discussion, we decide what it is that you do want. And then when you're in this relaxed state, we just suggest it. And
Yeah, so
even if
you have control. You could
total
stop it at
control.
any time. You could say, "No, I don't wanna go there." You're not helpless. You're totally there. You just have a
Mhm.
guide to help you try to find those pain points, those
Right.
vulnerable spots that are hard to uncover.
Exactly. And what's beautiful is that that critical factor that's there to decide will also pop back in if at any time you feel threatened. Like, oh, I don't want to go there. Boop. It'll just come right there and just say, and we talk about it before relaxation, is that at any time, if you're uncomfortable, you can speak. We have conversations while you're in trance. It's the most beautiful thing to share with another person. For me, it's such an honor.
Excellent. That sounds amazing, and I think it really clarifies a lot of the misconceptions. And also just shows, like, some of the benefits that can happen in your life when you clear these negative thought patterns that you've carried. Like you said, if someone gives you a compliment and you look back through your past and think, "No, somebody made fun of me in middle school and they said I had too much of this or not enough of that, and, so and so, I ended up with a divorce, so obviously I wasn't good enough there." So you gather up all the contradicting information, and then you go with that, and we tend to blow up the negative instead of remembering all the wonderful reinforcing, positive compliments we've gotten over time. So, I mean, it just sounds amazing to be able to sort of strip those away and then reprogram. And that's what you're saying happens is sort of a reprogramming. So once you realize what was going on in there, then you can clear that out of the way. And so you'll go about things differently after you've gone through this process.
Right? The next time someone says, "You look so nice today," and you say, "Thank you, I love this outfit," or,
And you really mean
you
it.
absorb it, you mean it.
Yes.
Or even um, when you, let's say, if we're working, boss body, I want to have control over what my body does. And I wonder why I'll self sabotage something. The next time the self sabotage behavior begins, you have this, and I liken it to the who changed that? Like all of a sudden, I'll say, "No, thank you," and then I look. This is my own personal hypnotherapy experience. I looked back. I'm like, "Who said that?" I did, and it becomes my new reality.
So I understand you have some tips, some action steps that people can take on their own to sort of start this process of clearing off these old patterns. Can you share
Yeah,
some of those with us?
I would be happy to, because a couple things we've already covered is that the subconscious doesn't really have language, like alphabet language, but words can trigger feelings, right? So if I say something like if you say the word freedom, what does that do in your body? Because every thought has a physical response. Either it'll contract or expand. And so the word freedom, I expand in that word. So we can use words, but what's really fun, and I just wanted to share with everyone how to do your own self hypnosis because it is so simple. The good things usually are so easy and simple that they would elude you. You believe, oh, this couldn't possibly be this easy. But it is. But the key is repetition, because repetition is one of the ways the subconscious gets reprogrammed. Like you might hear a negative thing from your boss one time and you're like, but you hear it every day for years, it starts to become your reality.
It creates a brain pathway, and so we
It's
have to create new ones so the old ones die away.
exactly. And so self hypnosis is literally forging a new path, a new brain pathway. So the main thing to understand very simply, most people know fight or flight, right? The stress response, that's your autonomic nervous system. The branch is called your sympathetic. So you want to go out of that and into what's called parasympathetic, rest and digest, right? And this is the place where you heal. You don't necessarily heal when you're in fight or flight. Every systems are shut down. So we want to open to that freedom, right? That's even just by saying that word, I'm opening my nervous system to switch to that healthy place. So the first step to self-hypnosis is really 3 breaths where your exhale is longer than your inhale.
That
Take
sounds so
6 if you
easy.
want. Right? Take 6, take 9, but even if, let's say, you're in a stressful situation, you can use this anywhere to switch your nervous system, exhaling longer than you inhale. And then once you're there, you've begun the process of calming the critical factor. You're halfway open. The next thing to do is to close your eyes. And of course, you don't do this while you're driving. You can take the 3 deep breaths when you're driving, but now you close your eyes and you imagine yourself either walking down a set of stairs, and you can count the stairs backward, or you can bring relaxation like a wave down each body part. So there's 2 ways. It's called deepening, but it's engaging the imagination. And so literally you've opened the door to the imagination and creative subconscious. Now we're going to play there. So you use your mind's eye to walk down a set of stairs, or to use your body as the canvas, and you're letting waves of peace flow over you.
I
So
feel
step
more
1 is
calm just hearing you say it. It immediately brings down that anxiety, fight or flight.
and that's where you have more cognitive function. Your digestion only works in this mode. So imagine all the processes that we are now open to. So we've done our breaths, we've done our deepening, however we want to use our imagination. The counting down from 10 down to 1 is just a helpful tool, kind of an integration between language and imagination. And then when you're there, you tap into what we call a mental movie, right? That you're in. You're in it. It's a moment in time where everything is going right. And you can be as specific as you want to about this. Mine is actually an imaginary place. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm at the dinner table with my family and everybody's happy. My happy place is actually floating in this very calm, still stream. And I've got all these flowers around me and the sun is shining and I'm buoyed up by the river. And so it doesn't have to be the anchored movie, doesn't have to be real, but it can be. Like, let's say if achieving a certain waist measurement is like the main thing that you want, and you imagine yourself going and trying on whatever size pair of jeans, and you're in the fitting room and you're like, oh my gosh, it's working. Like, that can be your mental movie. You can be as specific as you want and just hang out there. But the main thing is to engage all of your senses. So some people see imagination really well, and some people don't. They want to feel it instead. So if you're putting on that whatever size jeans and you're like, oh, I can feel the waistbands loose, or feeling them on your body. You hear the sound of the music at the store. You can smell the whatever perfume from the counter over there. But just kind of put all of your senses there, because that's what your subconscious is just like, ooh, yes, let's outpicture this. I love it. I love these good feelings, because those good feelings are your core truth. And
Absolutely.
so, yes. And so you hang out in that mental movie as long as you want. If you're laying in bed, you can just go to sleep right from there. Or if you're like, okay, my break's over, you count from 1 up to 5, stomp your feet, and you are fully alert.
That sounds so simple and so easy. I mean, literally, this could take 10 minutes.
And imagine if you're not really a meditator. This could take the place of your meditation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do struggle with meditation because your brain wants to just spiral out and start thinking about your to-do list and all that. So I like that you have all this visualization because that sort of keeps your brain busy. And I love that this is just something we can use. And I think it's important to stress what you said earlier. This takes repetition. You can't just do this one time. You have to make this a regular practice.
Mhm. And what I believe is a really good anchor is to remember the feeling of your mental movie. Like, the facts of your mental movie, they might change. But if you can think of it as a reward, like the feeling inside your mental movie is the reward. And so that's kind of a place where, if my world's very stressful, I think I want to go to my happy place. And
Yes,
my
my
happy
happy
place is
place
my
is a
mental movie.
hammock between 2 palm trees at the beach with the breeze.
Love
That's where
it.
I go when I need to.
I love it.
Well,
And
thank
that
you.
is the very popular one
Yeah.
for physiological healing.
Mm.
Like, on a physical level, putting yourself in that hammock. Some of the medical hypnotherapy for all sorts of issues, but that one's great for like pelvic floor. Like, you're being held in this hammock, and so the possibilities are endless. But I
Yeah.
think it's important, to to really allow yourself the very simple surface stuff first,
Yeah.
and then just see for yourself.
Yeah, just from talking with you, I know we could go on for hours because it's so interesting and there's, so much more. But I love that you gave us some, things we can do for ourselves right now. And so if people want to learn more about it or want to, find you, where can we find you?
Well, my website is really the easiest place. So that's juliathie.com. So it's just my name.com.
And Thie
And
is
on there,
Thie. Want to make that clear.
Thie, yes.
Yes.
Julia. So with
Mm-hmm.
an A. So juliathie.com. And when you go there, at the bottom of the homepage, you can schedule a free consultation on the phone to just discuss, is this the right thing to work on? Is this the right time to work on it? How might that work for me? And I'm happy to do that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I love what you do, and I think it's amazing. And I love showing that there are so many different ways to get at the same issue. And this sounds like a wonderful tool that could help a lot of people with a lot of things. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
You're very welcome, Sarah, and thank you for what you do in the world. It is a beautiful work.
All right, everybody, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.